Who you gonna call? Ghostbuster.
Hey everyone, welcome back to AsArt with Nick and John. We post 3 videos a week, so go ahead and check out asart.space for all the audio and video links, or of course subscribe to us on YouTube if you're watching on there. So Nick, Ghostbusters is one of my all-time favorite movies, especially special effects wise, but just a gem of a movie in general.
Yes, it's a classic. Great comedians, great storyline, awesome VFX for the time and for the budget, because it wasn't like a Jurassic Park movie, it wasn't a Star Wars, but like the effects hold up. Like, some of them hold up. Not all of them, some of them.
Well, there's definitely some kind of not errors or mistakes. There's, I'm sure, based on the money and the time they had to cut some corners. So if you go frame by frame, which obviously you were never going to be able to do in the theater at the time, you can see like certain things will be on screen that aren't supposed to. Yeah. But overall, man, it holds up so wonderfully. It's just such a fun film.
Then even if you think about it, when you got the VHS tape, it was even harder to go frame by frame. You would have to like pause, play, rewind. You know, I mean, that was like,
when you paused, it was all shaky. But I remember, like, this is a good example of VHS tape not really, pretty much hiding mistakes. I remember way back when in Wizard of Oz, people swore that there was a little person that had hung themselves in the background. And now when you watch it on Blu-ray, and people had said, that's where it is, but it was just so blurry because the resolution for VHS was like 320 by
like
something,
the line
I think.
Of like a building that's going like directly.
It was like a swan or something that had a long neck. And on the Blu-ray, you see it so clearly, there's no mistaking it. But at the time, it's like people are like, it's a hung person. I'm like, okay, you sickos. But that's a good example of like, okay, you didn't see the mistake, or not mistakes, imperfections on VHS, and in the theater, you obviously weren't pausing it. And so on modern times of Blu-ray, you'll see some imperfections, but this is way before the digital age. Yes. This is special effects, traditional wise. This is low budget. So a lot of people that worked on this had worked on Return of the Jedi and things like that. And I don't know if it was, do you know if it was Industrial Light and Magic that works on this, or? I'm not sure. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of visual effects studios back at the time, because when did Ghostbusters come out? 85, 84? Should have also
looked that up before doing this video.
Good job, Nick. Good job.
I like it. But all my fault. No, I'm kidding.
But it wasn't until later on down the road, especially once digital hit, that you got a lot more visual effects studios and special effects studios. But before that, Industrial Light and Magic really had not a monopoly, but they pretty much were able to price the work at whatever they felt was fair, because they didn't have many competitors. And it was actually a really good time for special effects and visual effects. It was hard to break into the industry, but as far as the work being done for a fair price, if you don't have all kinds of people bidding and fighting for the jobs, you can charge what you think is right.
Maybe break it down by the different types of stuff that they did in the film. Let's start with the matte paintings. There are some beautiful, beautiful matte paintings. One of the ones that come to mind right now is the staircase, when they're going up the staircase.
Oh man, the perspective, Oh, it's so good.
So freaking good.
And it serves. It's not just a flashy matte painting just to be a flashy matte painting. It serves the story perfectly. It's like they're climbing up these stairs with all their proton packs and all their gear on. And they're like, oh my gosh, I'm tired. And you find out they're like, what floor is this? 2, I forgot what it was, but it's like, you see how much more they have to go. It's just a cool shot.
Yeah, that's great. The city at night, during the day, it's just so beautiful. And the way they even like had those really cool clouds. I'm like so curious how those clouds, they got like the clouds to move in certain ways and stuff. I was just like, man, what the heck? That's like so advanced for that time, if that is particle effects.
You're not doing that digitally on a computer, not opening up Maya or Houdini and doing a simulation like you would now. But I always loved the clouds. Like, I didn't see Close Encounters, the Steven Spielberg movie. That was another famous one that used how they did the clouds and stuff in these movies. It's called the cloud tank. But I think it's also called the Trumbull effect, named after the guy that thought it up. But if you just look up Trumbull, I think it's Trumbell effect, and just cloud tank, you'll be able to find a bunch of examples on YouTube. But that was used in, like I said, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Ghostbusters, and Close Encounters. And it was a really cost-efficient way to do really complex, kind of cool, otherworldly, surreal clouds. And the way they did that, and I always wondered this growing up, but they would have a fish tank, and they had a huge fish tank in Industrial Light and Magic. And basically what they would do is you would fill the bottom portion of it with salt water. So they actually had these huge, like, what is it, the wine barrels, or like pressurized barrels, and they would put the exact amount of salt and water together, and they would pressurize it so it's injected into the water, so you get true salt water of a very specific consistency. They put that in the fish tank, and you put like a little plastic divider, like almost like a plastic sheet, and then you pour fresh water on top of that, and once it's all settled, you slowly pull that plastic sheet out, so the separator, and since the salt water is more dense than the fresh water, the fresh water sits perfectly on top of that layer where the salt water starts. So you actually have this dividing line.
Wow.
And what they would do is they would inject condensed milk in there, and you would film it at a high speed. And when you play that back at regular speed, it looks like these really cool, kind of swirling clouds. Really, really, and they just. I think the story was, I read a article on the people who thought that up, and they're like, all right, we need a clever way to achieve this. You have $50, go. And they just had to sit down and figure out how they're going to do it. But there's these cool shots.
Wow.
I mean, it's very, very cheap. But there's this really cool shots in Raiders of the Lost Ark and Ghostbusters, like the clouds kind of part. And the way they did that is they had a little like a fish tank hose that you like clean out the tank with. And they had like a little, like a pouch at the end, and someone jumped on it. It would burst, a poof of air, and that would part the water, and so that condensed milk would open up, and that's how you get this cool opening effect. That's probably longer of a description than you guys wanted, but it's such a cool effect.
Keep it coming. It's so freaking good.
It's such cool
and it
stuff.
Just helps with the matte paintings too.
Yes,
because you'll have the cityscape, and then they have the cool cloud effect, and you're looking up at this crazy perspective of the building, and you're just like, whoa, what the heck? And then you get the other cool bird eyes view when like the building, like her apartment is like just like ripped to shreds, but you still see them walking around on the corner. It's like, dude, that's crazy. The cars aren't moving on the street, but this looks so freaking good.
So that's kind of the story. They did this amazing matte painting, and the shots on, usually when they did matte paintings on glass, so all the matte paintings you see were painted on glass, and they would just not have showing the section where they wanted to project the film. And so you can see these people walking on like a soundstage basically, and they spliced them into that shot. But so the matte painter on the, if you guys have access to the DVD or the Blu-ray, I have the DVD, and on the special features, they have a really long making of where all the special effects people are sitting down and talking about working on the movie. But they're like, this was just some random people, or it was some of them walking on the stage, because you don't see the actual people, you just see people walking. But like the matte painting was so good that we could have it on screen for a long time. But if you look down the street, none of the cars are moving, so it's kind of funny. So you had pointed that out, but
So did they use like multi-planes like Walt Disney with like the whole like on glass where there's like parallax going on, or was this mostly just like on glass, like a still frame? Because the cameras aren't really moving too much in these shots.
Exactly. Yeah. So usually for just static shots, it would just be a pane of glass that's painted. You would expose that, and then you would either project behind it the part that you want to actually be with the people, or you would optically composite it later on. But just really cool stuff. It's something that obviously I have no experience with optical compositing.
No, but he
traditional
knows how
way of
to
doing
use
things.
After Effects with layers, the modern way.
But just it makes it even more fascinating. So like the cloud tank, when I was teaching some classes at a college I taught at for a long time, I have a class that was more traditional special effects. And it was some of my favorite classes to teach because it was more hands-on than just working on things on a computer. So it's really, really cool, fascinating stuff. If you guys can find the making ofs on YouTube or whatever, it's really, really cool stuff.
Another cool, like hand-drawn cool feature, like the lightning and the whole proton packs when they shoot to get the ghosts and stuff like that. Like, so you were telling me before we even decided to film these videos and stuff that was like hand animated. I was just like, whoa, that's so cool. And then when I was going frame by frame, I even noticed like when they turn on the guns or the packs, it starts away and then it connects like a lightning. Like it's like a charge up here, and then it connects. It's just like, whoa, just the little details like that, just so beautiful. If you guys have a digital copy, I highly, highly recommend going frame by frame for a couple of these things, because there's some really cool things you can miss. You know what I mean? Like, because it goes by so fast. But please explain the animation of the lightning.
Yeah, no, I mean, so one thing that, like, if you think about, Return of the Jedi, the Emperor's lightning coming from his hand is some of the same people that animated that. They would hand animate that, and like when you got to the prequel trilogy and things like that, where it's more digital, I didn't like how the lightning moved, because it was more I guess, realistic lighting, but it was an effect. It was like a, whether it's After Effects or a 3D rendered effect, it had more of a real move to it, whereas this hand animated stuff has this cool kind of flow to it. It almost just moves straight, but they went from lasers and lightsabers to proton packs, where it's just straight, and then you get proton packs. It's like,
I know,
it's just
so
like
crazy.
Really, really fun effect. But yeah, all hand animated. They just layer in all the animation, and you can probably appreciate it even more than I can.
I love it.
Animator by trade.
Just seeing it go and all that. It's just like, and then when they're like all
It's
four
so
of them
fun.
and they like connect, and you see it like, so.
Oh, it's just
cool.
so fun. It's just. I think the coolest thing, and obviously we weren't around when this was released in theaters, but I think probably the coolest thing is you went from kind of more Star Wars Return of the Jedi was pretty recent to that, and then you jump to this really goofy, wacky thing. It's just a complete 180 from what they were doing before, and it
was kind of goofy and
really
wacky with
approach.
the Ewoks. Let's be honest. No, I'm just joking.
Oh, man.
Ooh, I offended John. He's like,
No.
he's like shooting me with lightning right now. No. Let's go into like the practical effects. There's a lot of cool puppets, the sets. I mean, it's such a good like combo. Like they have the practical and then they comp it on, and it just looks so good. Like we can go to the beginning. Well, I guess that's just a comp, but you have the old lady. She's reading the book. And then
what a
like,
fun way to start off a movie. Oh my gosh, what a fun!
And they're like, you go, me, me, you,
yeah.
kind of thing. And she turns around and like that.
Oh, it's so fun.
Like my mic.
I mean, and Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd, they just make it so fun because I mean, it's like, so, are you on vacation? And he just walks away, But yeah, it's perfect. It's like this floating kind of transparent ghost, and then like when they all right on 3, ready, get her, and then it's just so entertaining. Good. It's so fun. Yeah, they just go running. It's one of my all-time favorite openings to a movie. It's just such a fun way to you know exactly right away who the characters are, what they're setting out to do. You set the tone with this first encounter of the being kind of goofiness and comedy, but still kind of it's
very
perfect.
Awesome. And then you have the slime monster, right? Or the green slime dude. I don't remember his name. But
well, they didn't name him in this movie, but later on they named him Slimer, and they had the cartoon, and he would be named Slimer, but at this time he was just another ghost. He just happened to be really popular.
Man, such a cool puppet. The way you just see the weight and all that. It's like a mini Jabba the Hutt. Like whoever did Jabba the Hutt.
Jabba the Hutt got with Yoda. Very disturbing thought, but kind of.
Yes, love you, I do.
If you're gonna spew into this.
Oh man. Anyways, let's get that shot. Let's just erase that out of our minds. But dude, they did such a good job with that character floating around, the comping, the glow, like the whole effect to it. It's just such a good job. And then what's cool with that scene? What was the story with the cart? And they like turn around and they
so they have a couple stories about that Slimer section in the hotel. The first one is there's a wider shot in the dining hall where Slimer's kind of floating around a chandelier, and they're like, we built a puppet or something along the lines. They built something for it, but it wasn't working, and so they're like, we had to get the shot out, and basically what we ended up doing is spray painting a peanut, green or whatever, just moved it around, and that, I mean, something probably more fancy than that, but nothing. And this is all on this behind the scenes of kind of regurgitating stuff. So if you guys get an opportunity, we'll watch that. But they're like, I mean, that's the cool thing about that is whatever you could get away with and worked, boom, do it, move on, which is really, really cool. But yeah, so about the cart, so a maid's going down the hallway, and they think it's Slimer. They turn around, they're like, oh, and they zap the cart, and she jumps behind it, and they had to rig it with all kinds of explosives, right? And so the actress, she jumps behind them, they set it all off, and so supposedly, like, she went out from behind it and peeked out, and she goes,
"What the hell are you doing?"
That was her. They had put so many explosives in it, and it went off so crazy. She's looking right at them. She's like asking them, like, "What the hell are you doing? Are you trying? What
the hell are you doing?"
Yeah, it's like just a funny story. So many fun, like anecdotal, like fun things about this film.
And then there was even cool stuff too, like when she's in the chair, and then like the arms come out and like Just
that creeps me out to this day. That's so scary. Oh my god.
okay, so I went frame by frame, like I tend to do sometimes. And it's so cool. You see like an X stitched on the chair for the hand to like rip through, and I was just like, yes,
like a target marker. Like, here we go.
I love it.
Really?
But like it's so
hilarious.
crazy because you get the two on the side, which is like okay, like that's happening. But it was so weird when the middle one came up between her legs. I was like, is that even necessary?
So the one that comes up, I swear it gropes her right on the chest, and the one comes up. I'm like, dude, this is like.
I know, it's like Zuul, calm down, Zuul.
Yeah, calm down, Zuul.
And then like the whole door effect, when they're like there's like a face and the fingers on the door.
That's really cool. I really like that. Probably one of my favorite. Like I there's random images that I always remember. And one of my favorite game CD covers is called it's a game by Sarah. It's called The Beast Within, and they have this kind of like it's under a shoe or something. You see this like beast, like werewolf, like kind of you can see the face pushing through. And kind of the same thing with the Zuul dog against that door. You're like, oh, and it's cool. It really plays to what you don't see scares you even more. Now, granted, 10 seconds later, we
see Zuul and then we're not scared because we're like, is he sitting on his belly? Does he even have legs?
All those shots where they have animatronics, they always have it where it's like just belly.
I know he's always resting his belly. He's on the bed. He's on his belly, and then like after he breaks through the door, he does this whole thing to chase. What's his name? Alan?
Dark Helmet.
Yeah, Dark Helmet. Gosh, I can't remember. But
Rick Moranis. There we go.
Yes, Rick Moranis. Thank you. But like even after that, he chases him through the door. Like when they cut back to Zuul, he's just on the ground on his gut, and I just like love it. He's just like always on his gut, unless it's like a claymation, which I thought was kind of cool how they did the claymation. Even though it's kind of funny when he crosses the street, you can tell like timing and stuff is weird, and the way they like green screened it and like composited it on was kind of funny. And if you go frame by frame, at the end he goes in front of the trees. You know, he jumps into the trees. He's like,
there's a few times where the Zuul dogs, the claymation Zuul like dog type deals. There's a number of times at the end of the movie. There's a time where the foot goes in front of yet behind the altar. So, but unless you're going frame by frame, you don't notice that stuff. So it's not really like a detraction. And honestly, I think I do miss claymation. Yeah, obviously digital effects look more realistic now. Yeah. But at the same time, it gives you this cool, otherworldly, surreal look to it. And it's just part of the charm, really.
But, like, if you do mechanical stuff like Star Wars, it holds up. You know what I mean?
Yes,
like, if you think about mechanical stuff, because, I mean, obviously when you're trying to do, like, an animal or a monster, you're going to see, like, you know, because they try to do the skin and all that. But if it's, like, a mechanical, like, spaceship or just, like, the walkers.
Hard surface.
You know, it kind of works. You can hold up. You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, though, this is not everything in this movie. It's supposed to look believable, but it's just supposed to look fun and, you know, hilarious.
It's totally believable. So we have a giant state puff marshmallow.
I knew you could have jumped to that eventually.
Who is a man in a suit on fire.
Yes. So a couple things. So one last little fun thing about Rick Moranis. So in the making of, they show original storyboards for the movie, and they actually show, and they say this in the making of, they're like, we actually intended Rick Moranis' character was originally intended to be John Candy. So in the storyboards, you see John Candy there, and you're like, oh, what a different role would have been, though. I think it's, I love John Candy. He's one of my favorite actors that time period, but Rick Moranis, I think, even works better in that role, especially him, you know, trying to always wanting to be after the, you know, the girl.
Oh yeah, he just plays that part perfectly.
Him being so short. Yeah, it was way better.
And then when he has like the helmet on, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like a teaser for Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
He just looks so funny. He's like, should I have some? Yes, have some. Yes, have some. You know, it's like his acting is so funny. He's perfect.
It's so
Dark
perfect.
Helmet.
Yeah,
Dark Helmet.
He did such a good job, man. I love that guy.
Yeah.
Okay, State Puff.
So, and again, this is all in this behind the scenes, but just fun stuff. So they only made, I think, 2 or 3 of those Stay Puft Marshmallow Man suits, and they literally, for the end, had to light a guy on fire in that suit. And the first guy they had to do it, I think, if I recall correctly, he didn't want to do it because they had to feed him oxygen in the suit because the suit was made out of a foam that was toxic. So when they lit on fire, if he's not on oxygen, you know, he could have, like, you know, damage to his lungs or might pass out or whatever. So they get this other guy, dress him up in it, and light him on fire. And the first 2 times, I think, out of the 3 suits, he does the universal thing of put me out. He falls on the ground, and they put him out. And they're like, finally, they're down to the last suit. They're like, dude, this is the last suit. Like, if we don't get the shot, what do we do? You know, because they were on a pretty tight budget. So they got the shot and it worked out. But like, how crazy. They had to feed him oxygen. You know, they had to literally light a guy on fire. But it's part of the fun too. It's just the charm of it. It's really,
part
really
of
funny.
the fun, being lit on fire. You hear that, everyone? No, I'm joking. No.
I nominate Nick.
Oh, and then one scene that always pops up too is when you have the shot of the foot and is walking towards the building, and like the worst like green screen comp ever. Like,
and at the time, I think Industrial Light and Magic had a lot of blue screen, so it was probably
blue screen. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, when they're doing, I mean, I guess it doesn't matter, but when they're doing optical compositing, which I'm 99% sure they were still doing at the time, it's really hard to get really super nice clean edges. And a lot of times, so they would expose parts to the film separately, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you can see the line where the two are spliced together kind of wobble, especially in this movie. And that's just the sprockets not quite staying aligned when they're exposing the film. Just that they got that to work at all is amazing. I mean, you have to expose the area just that you want with a black and white matte, just so the light hits the part that's white and the light is blocked by the black. And like you do in actual digital compositing now and motion graphics, but a lot of people don't know that this is all based on traditional special effects techniques, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just, you know what? Yeah, is there things that don't hold up perfectly? But yeah, you know what? Star Wars had a lot of mistakes too before they started doing all the special editions.
Everything
that
has
was the first thing they
mistakes
did.
when you look at it. Because
Yeah,
one thing
yeah, for sure.
you know, most of the time people don't even catch the mistakes, especially when you're watching the film.
yeah.
You only catch it if you go frame by frame. Sometimes it's
Yeah.
pretty obvious. You're like, but most of the time you don't really see the stuff. And is there?
And if you work on the shots, you know.
Oh
say
yeah,
you're in a
if you're
effects
seeing
studio,
it, yeah.
then you know they're there, but you're looking at this 500%
Yes.
zoomed in, frame by frame, left and right arrow key, just going through it.
It's ingrained into your brain.
Yes, yeah. I'd say for better or for worse, but basically for worse.
Dude, it was such a good time going back, watching this movie, looking at the visual effects, and just like, oh man, the music's so good. Like, talk about like the catchiest theme song almost ever for a movie.
The music, the sound design, I mean, the proton pack sounds, the you know, everything. It really goes back to, you can have great special effects or visual effects. You can have great cinematography, but if you don't have the music and sound, it's still not going to work. And so everything that just happened to work wonderfully. It was just such a fun movie. I hadn't seen that for a couple of years until I went back and watched it, but there was a period of time where I'd watch Halloween comes around every year, watching Ghostbusters. You know, just such a fun movie.
And talk about one of the greatest logos of film history.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the only one I could think of that rivals it, like when it just comes to my head, is Jurassic Park. Like when you think of like a logo for a movie kind of thing, like.
Yeah, can you think of any other logos that are?
I'm trying to think of like I'm
Yeah,
trying to think if the
think of
Goonies even had
else.
something. I know it was like the crumbled text, but I'm just like trying to even think of modern films. I'm like, that's the one that's
Illustrated things. Yeah, that's a fun thing, you guys. If you have that's a really fun thing, you guys. If you have logos that you think are as recognizable or memorable as Ghostbusters or Jurassic Park, like post them down. That'd be fun to think about that. That'd be fun.
Yes, please put them down in the comments down below. And if there's anything else we missed, please let us know. I would love to go back frame by frame and see something I missed.
And honestly, there's a lot more to talk about on this film, but I don't want to go point by point from the DVD.
We would be here for hours. Hours. It would be longer than the actual movie.
If you guys have never seen Ghostbusters, do yourself a good service and go watch that thing. I wish the second movie was even a quarter as good as the first one, but it's just not. But it's really, really fun. And they had wanted to make more movies for a while and just never kind of happened. But yeah, really, really fun stuff. One of my favorite all-time movies, special effects or otherwise.
If
really,
you guys
really cool
enjoyed this, we do so many visual effects breakdown. From Parasite, we covered every single Harry Potter film. I mean, and we're doing more and more. Space Jam, like you name it, we're getting there.
Space Jam, right up there with Ghostbusters. Space Jam.
Call of the Wild.
Animation quality wise, it is really cool. Yeah, Call of the Wild.
We're knocking them down. And if there's any you want us to cover or you think we should watch, please let us know. Please let us know. That's always fun.
Yeah, getting to find other movies. Like when we did the Parasite review, people were mentioning other Korean films we should watch. They're like, this is perfect. Like this is what I always want. Is like good recommendations on films.
And The Host is one we're going to be doing because I watched it. And I was just like, oh my gosh, we're going to talk about this.
Fun stuff. Check out Ghostbusters if you haven't. And if you've seen it a million times, go watch it 1,000,001. Check out AsArt.space for all the audio and video links. We post 3 times a week, so check back. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you on the next AsArt.